One in Three is intended for mature audiences. Episodes contain explicit content and may be triggering as they often include violence and other varying forms of abuse such as emotional, psychological, sexual, and physical. In most cases, names have been changed to protect all involved. Please note, statements and opinions of guests do not necessarily reflect those of my own. Hi, warriors. Welcome to One in Three. I'm your host, Ingrid. Narcissist, narcissistic personality disorder, gaslighting. These are all terms that everyone seems to be using today, and it's getting thrown around a lot, and sometimes probably accurately. Most of the time, though, probably not. Well, luckily for me and for my friends and for you, I have Nova Gibson, the author of Fake Love and the podcast host of Fake Love and Flying Monkeys, joining me today to actually go over some of this terminology. And she also explains some commonalities in narcissists. So key things to look out for, key things to pay attention to, and key things to clue you in to get the heck out. So without further ado, here is Nova. Hi, Nova. Thank you so much for joining me. Welcome.
My absolute pleasure, Ingrid. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm really excited to talk with you today.
I'm very, very excited because, narcissism obviously is a kind of a hot topic. Like everybody's using the word now, and it definitely coincides with domestic violence. I do feel that it's probably overused. I did buy your book. I have started reading it. My plan was to have it done by now, but I have, 3 kids and a job, and they're on summer break, and so it's the time to read is pretty slim. But I have started reading it. I love it. I feel like you've been following me around and just writing down my story.
That you're finding it validating, and I get told that a lot, Ingrid. It's like you're a fly on my wall.
Yes.
Were you in my lounge room when that was happening?
Right.
I hear that a lot.
Well, okay. So before we get into it, do you want to just give a quick background of, obviously you authored a book, but just kind of tell what else you're doing and how you got to do what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a survivor of narcissistic abuse as well. And after my experience, which is a long time ago, I couldn't find any support, anyone who really got it. And I make this really clear in my book, like the psychologists and that, they were lovely, but they just didn't get it. And I felt like I was telling them what was going on, and I felt patronized. So anyway, to cut to the chase, after much self-healing, doing what everyone else does, turning to online forums, talking to other survivors, I managed to heal my own trauma. And that took time, but knowing there was very little help out there for survivors, and I was already a therapist, I was already a counselor, I made it my mission to help other people. And as I said, that was a long time ago that happened to me, but that's all I do now, and that's all I've done since. And I only talk to victims and survivors of narcissistic abuse, and hence my desire to put it all on paper. Finally got round to it, which culminated in my book Fake Love, which has just blown me away and becoming the #1 best-selling practical self-help book in Australia in 2023 when it was released. It's available worldwide by HarperCollins. Yeah. So that's what I do at the moment. I speak to people all over the world, online therapy, and I also am a public speaker where I educate professionals around understanding the dynamic of this abuse.
That's huge. And I'm sure you're busy with only doing narcissistic abuse because there's so much. And
Yeah.
it's everywhere. I think you mentioned that it's not as diagnosed as it should be because obviously narcissists are not going to get treatment. They're not seeking out treatment themselves. But do you feel that the majority of abusers at least have narcissistic traits?
Oh, absolutely. It's about looking at consistent patterns of behavior over space and time. Any victim of domestic violence will tell you these are not isolated incidents. So I'm a firm believer that someone who is abusing someone in a domestic violence relationship, and narcissistic abuse is domestic violence, coercive control, is narcissistic because of the pattern of behavior, the cycle, the abuse, then the love bombing, and the abuser becomes the only one who can heal the wound that they created. So the victim goes back and the cycle continues. That's a narcissistic cycle.
And I have so many questions, and I'm trying to organize my thoughts into like a linear form so it makes sense. So beginning in a relationship, the love bombing is that a conscious thing that they're doing?
Is it conscious that they're trying to reel you in by being absolutely over the top? Yeah,
Yes.
they
Okay.
know exactly what they're doing. They've got to be bigger and better and grander in everything they do, and that means being better than everyone else in being that person who woos you at the beginning of the relationship. So they are over the top. They've got to be better, and that includes when they're grooming you, when they're hooking you in. Now, do they think inside their head, I'm going to be over the top and I'm going to love bomb this person? I don't think those thoughts are going through their head, but they intentionally giving you what you are basically telling them that you need, you want, and are they picking up on those little bits of data to use against you later on? Yes, they know exactly what they're doing.
That's so creepy. Okay. And then you mentioned once they lure you in, they're wearing this mask, and okay, I did not get too far in this book, but that was something that I always said about my abusers. I felt that it wasn't necessarily mask. I felt like he put on this whole bodysuit, that he was just this other entity, and he's wearing this bodysuit, and then he like popped out of it, and he couldn't get back into it when we were together. But you mentioned something similar to that, like this mask, and then the mask starts to come off because they can't contain it.
Yeah. So that's an interesting analogy. He was wearing this bodysuit and he couldn't get back into it. Um, the the bodysuit was sorry. The person who came out of the bodysuit was who he really was. The bodysuit never existed in real terms because that person they pretend to be is an illusion. That's the person who love bombs you. So they know they're not that person. They know they're not that nice, kind person who makes it all about you. This is where the intentionality comes in. They're just waiting for you to be hooked, and they have this innate ability to know exactly when they can, as you said, get that heavy bodysuit off, kick back, relax, and it'll be all about them. So they never, to say he couldn't get back into it, it's more, why would he? That's it takes a lot of work and effort to love bomb someone, and they're all about the end game, which is for you to make it all about them.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, but then once you start recognizing that the inside part, the costume's coming off, and you start seeing that part, that's when things kind of really start falling apart for the victim.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great time for the narcissist. The narcissist is it is in control. That they're in control from the beginning, and they have obviously an advantage because they know what they're doing. You don't know what they're doing. You're in a war, and you don't know that you are, and you certainly don't know the rules of engagement. So they're always in control. It's set in the stars, basically. The second you meet them, the ending is inevitable, or the cycle is inevitable. It has to be over the top to begin with, so they can hook you in really, really fast. And then, of course, it's got to be all about them after that. And how confusing for you, how confusing for the victim to be put on this pedestal. That's why, again, it's over the top. And then it comes to a screeching halt, and you're wondering where your prince is, your princess. What did I do wrong? And of course, that's when the devaluation starts. Yeah.
Okay, so then talk about that part, the devaluation part. What happens?
The devaluation is basically when the love bombing finishes, the idolization phase finishes, and then the devaluation stage starts. So you will be confused. So you will have no self-worth, no self-esteem. They will constantly have you in a state of confusion, and you will be wondering what happened to that person that doesn't exist. They know that, so they will enjoy you chasing the feeling you got, and they'll throw out some breadcrumbs. So your pain, your reactions gives them narcissistic supply. So the devaluation is it's about having you just constantly confused and them feeding off your reactions, and of course lowering your self-esteem through the constant gaslighting. You don't trust yourself, and all of these strategies they incorporate into the devaluation makes you easier to control and manipulate and become trauma bonded to them, which means hopefully in their mind they'll feed off you in terms of narcissistic supply forever.
Now, I had not heard of narcissistic supply before, and I always thought, again, I was trying to think of things of my brain is very active and imaginary, but when I would think of my ex, I thought of a parasite that he was just sucking, whatever he needed out of me, and then moving on to the next and just sucking. And it wouldn't even necessarily be a romantic relationship that he would move to.
Great analogy, Ingrid, and maybe you haven't got that far in my book yet, but I actually use that. I describe the narcissist as being like I haven't got the page in front of me, but like a flea, a leech. A flea jumps onto a dog, sucks all the, as does a leech, sucks all the blood out, I guess, and when it's full, jumps off and finds another host. And that's what narcissists do. They drain you of everything that was amazing about you, everything they said they loved in the beginning, to hook you in they then set about destroying, because it's those things that make them feel inferior, and they have to be the one who's worshipped in this relationship. So yes, they suck you dry through their insatiable need for narcissistic supply, and then they go off and find another host, and it's like you never existed.
Yes. And, that was something that I've wondered, and I have other friends who have had, similar relationships and have wondered, like, okay, well, he he looks happy with his new partner. So was it just me? And, I think after years of gaslighting, you start to question, like, well, maybe I was the one who was, bringing on this behavior, and because things look good now with this new person.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, remember I said that that's the goal of narcissistic abuse, the devaluation, to have you confused. This doesn't make sense. Why are they treating me this way? So gaslighting distorts your reality, continual gaslighting. And I think this has become a bit of a buzzword too, unfortunately. People don't understand the true meaning of it. It's like brainwashing over time. You do not trust yourself. You second guess everything, and you're conditioned to do that. So when you see them with that new target and they've just moved on, it's just another Tuesday for them. And for you, your whole world's been shattered. You're like a crumpled heap on the floor. You're devastated, angry. But if you think back to the start of your relationship, you would have been the same. It would have been, amazing in the beginning. So all you are seeing is, if you look, and I strongly advise not to look, simply because you victims have got a normal range of emotions. So you're never going to see anything that makes you feel good. And they're basically putting propaganda out there to the world, and they want you to see them with the new soulmate, because they know how much it'll hurt you. That's a goal. And also to hook in the new soulmate. But yeah, you've just got to think back to the beginning of your relationship. If you look, you are simply seeing the next target being love bombed, and your ex, the narcissist, putting out propaganda online to hurt you. Oh, and
Yes.
to manipulate everyone else's perceptions. Look, I'm so happy. And
Mhm.
it's like, she's a mess, so it must
Mhm.
have been her that was the problem. Yeah.
Right. Yes, and I remember when, the two of us had just started our relationship, he was talking horribly about the woman that he was with before me, and she cheated on me and she did this, and you know what? She's messaging me and she wants me back and she's sending me these pictures and she's saying all these terrible things about you. Do you want her number so you can message her? And I was like, "No." Well,
My
I
goodness.
think I
Oh,
think
that's
he's
just classic
yes.
triangulation. Triangulation, when they bring a third party into the relationship. They want to pit people against each other. And that scenario, I go into a lot of detail in my book about that scenario. So they've got the crazy ex, which you will be now. You will be the crazy
I
ex.
am. Yes.
So he's got the crazy ex, and he brings her up to you to make you think that, oh, the poor darling, look, he had an absolute lunatic for an ex. So it cements your relationship because you feel sorry for him. You also don't want to be like her. So you're, the amazing girlfriend because he had such a bad one before. And when he starts to devalue you, which is inevitable, then they start singing the praises of the ex who they once purported to hate. So that makes you try harder to please them because you don't want to be beaten by her, and he's even if you two don't know about it, he's put himself at the top of the triangle and he appears to be this wanted commodity, and he's manufactured a situation, this triangulation, where two women are vying it out for him, and he's got you, the new soulmate, trying harder to please him.
That's so interesting because I never met this woman. I don't know that if I walked past her in the street, if I would even recognize her, but I hated her when we first started our relationship because of all these horrible things that he said about her.
It's crazy making. What he did was classic, but just the manipulation, because when and this is, I'm just going to say the narcissist because so many of them do this, when he's going, Ingrid, here's her number. You can message her if you like. To a victim, they think, wow, like, number one, he really trusts me to do this. So subconsciously, this is actually strengthening your attachment to him because he really trusts me. But you either, well, some victims will do it, but most won't, I think, and you didn't want to, but he would have known you. He would have known your vulnerabilities, your little idiosyncrasies, but he's appeared to be this person who's just an open book, and that strengthens the bond with you. And he's also introduced a crazy ex to create future drama.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. So what are some other tactics that are really common with narcissists?
In terms of what, devaluing or sucking you back in, or
Maybe sucking you back in, because I know that there are times where you're like, let me get out of here. This is wild. And then you go back.
yeah. So when they suck you back in, we call that hoovering. So Hoover, the term is coined from the Hoover vacuum cleaner. It's meaning to suck you back in. Now, narcissists discard you like yesterday's trash in the most horrific way. But the victim, and I won't get into too much detail in this episode about it, but the victim becomes trauma bonded to them, which is an addiction. They're addicted to the chemical cocktail going through their body, walking on eggshells all the time, and the rock bottom lows followed by massive highs in the beginning and then just perceived highs. So they become addicted. So when they're discarded, many victims are sucked back in simply because they want relief. They don't know this. They think they love this person, but it's really to end the withdrawal from the person they become addicted to, trauma bonded to. But the narcissist is very, very manipulative and experienced in this. So they want to come back. They don't want you to go away and heal. They've got to be inside your head forever. So they'll come back with a few breadcrumbs of the love bombing stage to hook you back in, just to discard you again. And the next time will always be more horrific. Or if it looks like they think you're happy or just moving on, they don't want you to forget about them, so they may just call out of the blue like nothing's happened. Like they didn't just shatter your heart and move on with 10 new soulmates after you. They forgot something, they left it at your house to get back inside your head. Or they run into you at the grocery store, even though they live 20 miles away. All of these things are to reactivate that addiction, and it's successful so much of the time if the person, the victim, doesn't understand what's going on. But narcissists will hoover just for the fun of it and to make sure you never forget about them.
Well, and of course, I have friends that have children with their abusers. So then it's like they're eternally stuck with them. And, despite the need to co-parent for, whatever duration, it's almost like these men are still deliberately attacking, even though like in both situations, the two exes are both remarried and they're both in different relationships, but it's almost like the narcissistic one is still doing all of these tactics just to continue to disrupt their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the narcissist's favorite gaslighting lines is, "I hate drama," and yet drama follows them everywhere because it's not true. They want you to believe that, but they're lost without drama. That they can't stand being alone and they can't stand harmony, peace, quiet. So there's got to be, if there's none going on, they will create it. They're very, very anxious, uneasy when there's peace and harmony. So what a great way to create drama than to always be nitpicking and just disrupting the life of their ex they shared children with. And like speaking about triangulation just before, that gives them a huge platform. They've got an ex they share children with, and they can make the new target, the new partner, feel very, very insecure because they're always talking to their ex. And then it becomes lose-lose for them because they're accused of being selfish because they share children with this woman, and yet the new partner is being set up to feel insecure because the contact, the communication with the ex is not healthy.
I mean, all these things would have been so great to know ages ago. So we both mentioned, so narcissism and gaslighting are two common buzzwords. Would you mind just explaining exactly what each of those are so that we understand, narcissism isn't taking you to a different coffee shop than you asked for.
Yeah.
There's more to it.
Yeah. So the word narcissist, yes, it has unfortunately become a buzzword. If someone's, a bit unpleasant, let me just put it that way. Oh, he's a narcissist. And people will just say, if they're having an argument with someone, oh, that's because they're a narcissist. And it's only people who truly don't understand exactly the destruction and the insidious, predictable behaviours that are so textbook from relationship to relationship. It's only those people who will use it out of context. So it's a narcissist, or NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. It's a label. It's a diagnosis, but a diagnosis is a label that we give to a set of symptoms or set of traits simply so we can apply a treatment. So you want to give something a label so you know how to treat it. But of course, you're never going to get that diagnosis, or very rarely with a narcissist. But I guess just to put it in a nutshell, a narcissist is someone who thrives on attention. They need attention. They need to have their ego stroked all the time. They think they're better than everyone else. They're envious of everyone else who has something that they think they don't deserve. And they also think everyone is envious of them. And basically, they have this grandiose view of themselves. They're special. And anyone who doesn't recognize it, that's because there's something wrong with them. They lack empathy. They lack empathy, and they engage in exploitative behaviours. And because they have no empathy, they're able to exploit with absolutely no qualms. It doesn't affect them. And if you're hurt because of the way they treat you or whatever they do to you, they justify it. If you're crying on the floor, well, you shouldn't have burned the dinner. They justify it. They justify your pain. You caused it. So yeah, it's someone who has a grand view of themselves and needs constant validation, attention, whether it's negative or positive, simply to validate that specialness, that the mask they wear. If you're not reacting to me, then this mask I wear is not real. The mask that hides the weakness, the true vulnerabilities they have, because NPD is actually a shame-based disorder, and that grandiose persona that they become, that masks the true weak and shame-ridden person that is who they really are.
Okay, that makes so much more sense, and that's, that clears up how it's definitely overused. And then
But
same
I
with
think, sorry, Ingrid, I just quickly, it's not just, I guess, an analysis of their personality. I think for victims, it's that, but it's more so these textbook behaviours that people who use it as a buzzword don't understand, like the cycle of the love bombing, devaluing, discard, the hoovering, the flying monkeys, the triangulation, the smear campaigns, etc., etc. They are textbook from one relationship to the next. So their abusive strategies are universal, no matter what culture you are, what part of the world you're in, or what sort of relationship you're in. So that it's all of those things that people who just, throw the word around have no idea about.
Yeah, so there are two things that you mentioned that I want to go over again, but before that, the insidious shift. One thing that you had written in your book, and I had just heard about, I heard this analogy earlier this week too, and I love it. I've told 3 people about it since then, is the frogs in water. And I mean, that is so spot on when describing this. Do you mind just quick saying?
It's an old analogy, but it just fits when you're talking about narcissistic abuse, coercive control. So there's a pot of water on the stove, and the frog comes along, jumps in to the water. It's having an amazing time. The water's nice and tepid. It's probably doing backstroke, and someone comes along and turns the heat up just ever so slightly. So slightly, the frog doesn't know. And then gradually, very, very slowly, the heat gets turned up so slowly that the frog doesn't know. And it's just becoming acclimatized to the heat until finally that water's boiling and the frog can't escape. It boils to death. Now, that describes narcissistic abuse, hopefully not boiling to death at the end, but the fact that the abuse starts off really small. It starts off so small. It's under the radar that you don't see it. You don't know that it's happening, and you're being conditioned to slowly override the red flags that just get a little bigger over time. And your ability to override those red flags gets a little stronger over time. So you become acclimatized to the abusive environment. It becomes your normal. But to survive it, you subconsciously have got to come up with all these coping mechanisms, like, for instance, blaming yourself.
That's huge. And then, those who have not had it, obviously they're looking at a pot of boiling water. Like if I were in a pot of boiling water, I would jump out, but it doesn't, it's not boiling. You don't get thrown into a boiling pot.
No. If you think about it in this way, if, like, using that analogy, if the water was boiling to begin with, the frog would never have jumped in. So victims would leave if the abuser was abusive right from the beginning. So they're not going to do that. They're going to get them hooked on the person they pretend to be. So the victim will forever try to get that person back. And that person doesn't exist. They'll just be brought out for a few little breadcrumbs if it looks like you're pulling away. The flowers, that's just a classic thing that people would associate with breadcrumbs, which, when the rock bottom lows are so rock bottom, I mean, your lows are on the floor and you can't fall off the floor, then just days they're not abusing you seem like gold. And that then becomes your love bombing. Simply a day you're not being abused. It feels like heaven because the lows are so low. And it's that contrast that makes those days seem so good. Yeah. But yeah, if they're abusive, you'd never stay. So they've got to get you hooked before they bring out the big guns, if you will.
Yeah. And then, so in the US here, there are a few states that are starting to recognize coercive control as domestic abuse. Is it the same in Australia?
Oh, yeah, I think I'm in Brisbane, Queensland, and the coercive control legislation has just come in May, and someone's already been charged. And
Wow.
yeah, it is so exciting. It's just come in, and I know it came in New South Wales last year, and there are other states that are heading in the same direction. There might be another state who has it too. I'm just not quite sure. But yeah, people have been charged with a criminal offence.
That's incredible. I imagine it's difficult to prove.
Yeah, well, we haven't got that far yet in learning, what's happened with it, because it's only just happened. But I think it's safe to assume that it's going to be difficult to prove. But you know what? You put that law in, that's on you. That's on the courts. They have education around this. They've got one job, and they need to know the difference between someone who is manipulating the court and the person who is abusing the victim behind closed doors.
Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant. I love it. So there are two other terms that you mentioned that I was hoping you could explain, and I love this one for the flying monkeys. So do you mind explaining what flying monkeys are?
Sure. So the flying monkeys, the term is coined from The Wizard of Oz. So I think most people will have seen that. And so if you haven't, then go and watch it. But the flying monkeys are those, those ugly little monkeys that the witch dispatches to do her bidding. They go and grab Dorothy's little dog, Toto. So that's where the term comes from. So a narcissist is always going to have flying monkeys. If you've got a narcissist, you've got their entourage of followers, helpers, whom we call flying monkeys, who the narcissist dispatches to do their bidding. So they might, for an example, they might let's say you leave. I've had enough, and you leave. They might send their best friend out to see. Oh, he's devastated. You need to come back. That's a flying monkey to hook you in. Or they might get a flying monkey, one of their followers. They don't have friends. They have followers to be their eyes and ears, to let them know what you're doing. In case you're healing, they need to interrupt that cycle. So, anyone who is near them and they use to get to you, whether it's just to get your attention so you're thinking about them again, or to actively be their eyes and ears, that's what we call a flying monkey. The narcissist doesn't want to get their hands dirty, so they get others to do their dirty work.
And then, of course, if they're surrounded by people that aren't flying monkeys or don't fall for their tactics, they'll just discard them and move to somebody who will. Smear campaign. That's another term that I think is pretty stereotypical. Yeah.
Absolutely, it's textbook. So a smear campaign is a preemptive strike to destroy your credibility, your reputation, because they know that you can expose who they really are. They don't want you telling people and having people believe you. So they will spread gossip, lies, and it'll start off just really, really small. They'll plant just a little seed in people's mind and then just water that seed with a little bit more information. But it's the narcissist's biggest fear is exposure. They don't want to have their true person exposed to the world. They don't want you revealing who they really are. So they will smear you. They engage in a smear campaign so no one will believe you. And of course, to isolate you so that people think you're the one with all the problems. It's to punish you as well.
And they do it so well. So then back to gaslighting. Do you mind explaining that? And then I have a question. I was talking to a friend earlier today, and she's like, you have to ask this question. But do you mind explaining what gaslighting is first?
Sure. So gaslighting is an abusive, manipulative strategy that the narcissist uses all the time to distort their victim's reality. So the term comes from the movie Gaslighting, and I urge everyone to watch it, even though it's very, very old. It still gives me chills. 1940s, I think. So, but there's two versions. My favourite, and I suggest you watch the Ingrid Bergman version. So there's this movie called Gaslighting. And I'm not going to give the ending away, but back in those days they had gaslights, and the wife, she noticed that the gaslight was like dimming, it was going on and off, and she said to her husband, "Did you see that? What's going on?" "Oh no, dear, I didn't see that." "Oh, okay, it must have been my imagination." Then it kept happening again and again until she started to think, "Oh my goodness, basically I'm going crazy." And then things would go missing, and she knew she hadn't shifted it, and she'd find it in a place she knows that she didn't put it, etc., etc. I'm not going to tell you the ending. It's an excellent movie. So that's where the term came from, because these gaslights were being dimmed, and she basically thought she was crazy. So the term is gaslighting is when the narcissist distorts their victim's reality. Now, that can be done by just straight out lying. "I didn't say that," or "you didn't tell me that," or it can be when they engage in a terrible behaviour or a betrayal, and then say to you, "You're oversensitive, you're overreacting." Let's just say an extreme example, you catch them in bed with someone. "Oh my goodness, we were just lying next to each other, nothing happened, you're overreacting." And over time, with all the other strategies, the victim's ability to trust even what they're seeing and hearing and feeling is gone. They second guess every thought in their head, just as the wife did in the movie. It can be shifting things around. Narcissists do it all the time. They'll hide your car keys or your phone, and then when you're going crazy trying to find them, they'll help you look. And then want your gratitude for finding it, and then make you feel like an idiot because you lost it. That's the levels they go to. It's about distorting your reality so that you don't trust what you're seeing, hearing, or feeling. And there's many ways that they do that. Excuse me, gaslighting can be when they say or tell a joke that's really an insult. So the aim is to insult you. That's the goal. But they'll insult you. Maybe let's just say it's your weight. "Oh, you're really going to wear that? Doesn't look too good on you anymore." And when you're naturally offended, they'll say that, "Oh, you can't take a joke. I was just joking." So you're appropriately offended. Your feelings were spot on, but they gaslighted you with the fact that you had no sense of humour. And over time, as they tell these jokes more, they're really insults disguised as jokes, you start to believe that maybe I don't have a sense of humour, and maybe that's just who they are. But that's just another example. But it's about distorting your reality, making you second guess yourself. And then the other big thing is, once you're confused because their words are not matching up with their actions, you turn to the very person who distorted your reality in the first place for what is real, for what your reality is.
It's so messed up. And then it can last even after you get out. And that's what I was talking to my friend about today, is years later, she's questioning, did that ever really happen? Or did I overreact? Or, did I imagine that happened? I've said the same thing to my sister. Like, was I being a little bit too much? And she just laughed. She's like, "What? Are you serious?" She's like,
Yeah,
that was not an overreaction. So my friend's question was, so when they say like, no, I didn't do that. What are you talking about? I didn't do that.
that's
In their
gaslight.
minds, and I told her, I'm like, I can't even think about it. I consumed so much of my brain trying to understand how they think. But do they truly believe they didn't do that? Or do
Well,
they know that they're lying?
okay. So only someone, and this is not a me judging victims or you because I've been there, but if you think about it, only someone who has had their ability to trust their instincts diminished would ask that, and that's what happens to every single victim. So what I say to that when people, and everyone asks me the same question, what I say to that is, or what I ask my clients is there anything wrong with their IQ? Like when your abuser was saying, I didn't say that. Is there anything wrong with his IQ? Like he's got a normal, if not high IQ?
Mm-hmm.
So he's not retarded. He's not. There's no, person. We know there's personality disorder, but there's nothing wrong with his intellect.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always the answer I get back. So what that means is he knows when he's lying. He knows whether he said something or didn't say something. He knows right from wrong. But he, in flat out denying it, you're going to react, aren't you? You're going to justify yourself. You're going to do what we call JADE. That's a really important acronym to remember because it's what gives them their supply. You're going to justify, argue, defend, explain. He's telling you basically the sky's purple, and you're, no, it's not, it's blue. He knows it's blue. He just wants you to go crazy trying to prove it. So that's what I ask. Is anything wrong with IQ? No. Okay, well then he knows he didn't say that. So he is lying. That's also gaslighting. But the thing you've got to remember is you've had your ability to trust your instincts and compromise for so long, and you don't trust yourself. So when they're appearing so calm, so adamant, there is such conviction in what they're saying, and you don't trust yourself, it is so easy for them over time to make you think the sky's purple.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's easier just to say, you're right, the sky is purple.
Yeah, because you know that it's going to go round and round in circles and you're going to be just exhausted. Or if, they want to really punish you, they'll give you the silent treatment for however long, stonewall you. And you know how torturous that is. So you don't go there. You don't venture down that path. It's just not worth it, even though you know the sky's blue.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, I feel like I could talk to you forever, and maybe I'll have to try to get you on for another episode after I finish the book because I really do like the book, and I like how you have two characters, Sophie and Justin, and that they're kind of a compilation of clients because I think they're so if you've been in a relationship like this, they're so relatable. Um, and like I said, like there were so many parallels that I was drawing that I'm like, she was been following me. Um, but is there anything else that you can think of that's a specific point that you wanted to bring up that we didn't go over?
Oh, there's so much.
Yeah, I know.
Um, I, I, I think just for today, the most important point is that you can't. They're not going to change. You can't fix them. They will not change. It will only get worse. These are not isolated incidents. They're patterns of behaviour. And your job, for everyone who's listening, is not to fix them. There is no excuse if they had a bad childhood to abuse you. Your job is to leave and to heal. That would be what I would say, because you don't deserve it and you're worth so much more. They will not change.
And it's not you. They're not like this because of you.
Yeah, of course. It is not your fault. No matter what you did that was out of character, when you reacted in exactly the way you were baited into reacting. And that's why it's so important to lead, because you start acting in a way that you don't like.
And you don't recognize anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. So Nova, do you have some links or anything that you'd like to share if anybody wants to, for instance, find your book or follow you on socials?
Sure. I'll send you the link to my book. It's a worldwide link that'll take you to Amazon, Kobo, I forget the other one. No matter where you are in the world, it'll take you to your local area, and it's available worldwide. So it's available where you live, Ingrid, and it's available in Audible. The Audible is amazing. Kindle, paperback, obviously you've got the paperback. So I'll give you the link for that. And also I counsel people one-on-one worldwide. I think the majority of my clients, funnily enough, are in the US. So if people would like to have a one-on-one Zoom counselling session with me, I'll just see www.brighter.outlook.counselling.service. I'll give you the link anyway, www.brighter.counselling.com.au. And to listen to my podcast, Fake Love and Flying Monkeys.
Nova, thank you again. This was an incredible conversation and so enlightening. This is a topic that I could just listen to somebody talk about, that, the actual true definition of narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder, because it's so huge. It really changes lives in a negative way. And if you recognize the signs early enough, you can avoid some massive trauma. So I really, really do appreciate your expertise and your time in coming in and talking with us today.
My absolute pleasure, Ingrid. It was lovely speaking with you, and hopefully we'll get a chance to chat again in the near future.
I absolutely would love that. Thank you. Thank you again to Nova for joining me today, and thank you for listening. I will have all of Nova's links listed in the show notes, as well as her 1 in 3 bio. I will be back next week with another episode for you. Until then, stay strong, and wherever you are in your journey, always remember, you are not alone. Find more information, register as a guest, or leave a review by going to the website 1in3podcast.com. That's the number 1, IN, the number 3, podcast.com. Follow 1 in 3 on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at 1in3podcast. To help me out, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. 1 in 3 is a .5 Pinoy production. Music written and performed by Tim Crow.